Hi everyone and welcome back. This is Sky coming on to talk to you about the month of July 2022 comprehensive astrology. I'm hoping you're all doing well and staying safe and enjoying the summer if you're in the northern hemisphere, and the winter, of course, in the southern. I have some really important topics to be talking about today, as July is one of the most karmic months of 2022. If you saw my new nodal paradigm video, as well as the 2022 year ahead forecast videos, which I will link below, you would have seen me referring to July 2022 and January 2023 as really huge karmic decision points for pretty much everyone. So I understand that this video is going to likely be lengthy and also full of some really vital stuff. Okay, I've taken time to outline a little bit. I've really meditated a lot because I think that this is probably one of the most important videos I'm making this year. But before we get into it, I do have a little bit of housekeeping. First of all, I am doing live premieres every Friday at 6 p.m. Pacific time. This one should be as well. But I will be doing this all summer and only during the summer this year. So be sure to come to these live premieres. They are wonderful community events. We have a lot of fun. I am focusing this season around beachy healing, refocusing, and recalibrating. So it's a great way to unwind and kind of relax amidst the kind of volatile, spiky, and fiery energy that this year is evoking. Secondly, my Sun in Astrology video just went live about a week and a half ago, and if you haven't gotten a chance to check out that video, I hope that you will. It's a big video for my channel, and if you get the chance to go over to that and comment, let me know your sun sign or what you thought about the interpretations, I would so appreciate it. It was quite the labor of love. And lastly, before we get into the video, please, if you get the chance, check out my mailing list below and sign up for my email list. This is a really important part of my channel moving forward. I have been kind of seeing with all this like North Node in Taurus, Uranus in Taurus, that these like social media algorithms and social media platforms in general can be like volatile, and it's actually been quite a source of stress for me recently, you know, knowing that everything that I've been like working on can so easily just kind of like ebb and flow. So I am probably considering more of a grassroots approach to this, and while I love YouTube and the other social media platforms, I do think that there is a conflict about it, or there's a bit of kink in the energy that they are generating. So because of this, I just want to have like sort of a backup, or I want to have other ways to connect. So I am primarily trying to do this through the mailing list. Even more important than subscriptions, even more important than following on Twitter or Instagram or Patreon or anything, I'm going to really put mailing list at the top of the hierarchy. But yes, certainly subscribe on YouTube here if you're new as well. So anyway, everyone, thank you so much. Let's get into this really important content. This is kind of like the energy of July. It's kind of making things more real, and it's wanting to have us get a little bit more tangible in how we back up our lives. It is likely the most karmic month of the year. It is coming off of the month of June. So June 2022 probably saw a lot of sort of stones thrown into the water, and now the ripples are coming out in July here in Cancer season. So of course this is Cancer and Leo season, and we have a really big decision point coming up here. How do we want to structure our lives moving forward? What is appropriate for us? What sort of identity or source of energy do we want to be championing? Okay, there is a sense of major progress in July. There's a sense of really seeing the difference after having started like an exercise regime or having changed your life in some way. And the habits, I think, are really going to be changing up this month. So it's really likely in July to have also quite a major change in your intimate space. So themes of intimacy are coming up this month. Themes of, how am I, posturing, or how am I surrounding myself in my most, personal moments. So who we invite into our home, who we invite into our inner circle, who we leave that door open to, there's probably going to be a change there in July. And these can be painful, everyone. I want to really brace you for this. This Cancer season is presenting a really inauspicious transit, which is the Sun in Cancer square Chiron in Aries, offset by a slightly disconfigured Mars and Jupiter surrounding it. So these are pain points for some people. I see relationships that were really filled with love now for some people coming to an end. There are breakups during this time. There are disconnections. But it's rewarding to have it at the same time. So I feel because it's the square, it's not like the conjunction or the opposition. What this means is that you can actually have it timed more appropriately here. So for those of you who have been in like toxic or abusive relationships before, you would know how like once the final breakup happens and it's like a terrible war or a terrible, terrible traumatic experience, you can kind of look back and see like, well, gosh, if I would have just broken up 3 months earlier, or if I would have just broken up even like 6 months or a year earlier, that relationship could have been salvaged, or I could have saved myself or that other person a lot of karmic damage just by cutting it off sooner. So I recommend for those of you in any type of severely toxic bonds to go ahead and disconnect that now. It doesn't mean it's going to be easy, and it's going to hurt. It's going to be painful, but it's better now than 2023. Okay, it's kind of, this is the dynamic that I feel is like one of those windows to kind of disconnect from certain really unfortunate bonds and to save ourselves trouble, but it doesn't make it easy, you know? So I want to actually dive into that a little bit, you know, in this intuitive section, before we're really even just talking about the astrology. I want to take a deep dive into the sort of psychosemantics of this beguiling dynamic of life, where it's like love kind of turns sour, or what was once a really good thing turns into something threatening or fearful. Okay, this is an important thing to be deconstructing here in 2022, because this is actually what the years 2023 and 2024 can really get emblematic of in a very negative way. So it's so good to be dealing with this here. That's something that I've been trying to understand myself, and it doesn't mean that there's like no positive feelings in the heart now. So there are times in our lives, and this is really evocative of like the 2017 and even 2015 time period, where like guardian angels came into our life, or the most incredible healing light presences came in. And we have to understand now that this is like 2022, and things do change, life changes, dynamics change, industries change. The world has changed, and it was very unfortunate to go through that triple retrograde Capricorn conjunction in 2020 that took a lot of very high vibrational light energy and like pulled it down into the deep end, and it's so much heavier and deeper now. And there's a new path now, and there's still a place for ascension, for surfacing, and for healing these relationships. So it's very likely that if you disconnect from something now, that it's more liable to be healed in the future than if we wait until the forced breaking point on behalf of the universe. But what I want to get to this is like this sort of trauma point that I think the collective is going through, where it's like, but that person was my saving grace, but I love that person. So this is one of the situations where like love can need to be expressed differently. Okay, so sometimes when we love something, we have to set it free, to be cliche. Or when we love something, we have to take distance. Sometimes distance is a loving action, and that's hard to work with. Oh, you mean that to disconnect or to detach can be a loving action? Yes, it can, but it usually is hard for everyone, but it can be the difference between like salvaging something or not. And for some people, it's not even going to be salvageable at this point, but it is still better to do it now than later. But what I think is also a key construct of this energetic kink, okay, where something really good, light, and protective over a period of time skews into something tormenting, heavy, or dark. This has something to do with an overconsumptive energetic line. So when we are too reliant, or when someone becomes a crutch, or when they're emerges a state of codependency, this is the type of thing that starts to anchor us down into lower vibrational realms. So, the relationship is not the problem, or the bond is not the problem. What is the way in which it intimately connects, or the way in which it is kind of referred to or utilized or postured with in a daily context. So basically, I think that the best comparison is like, without water, we can't survive, okay? Without water is our beating heart, almost. It's like water saves us, but water can also be deadly, all right? Too much water and you is lethal. You can flood the kidneys. So this really is more so a question of moderation here than anything. This is a question of, knowing what is an overuse, an overwork, an overconsumption, an over-reliance, an over-dependence, and realizing that those themes are the threat, not any of these specific people, events, careers, relationships, or even foods, whatever it is. So July of 2022 is going to usher in a new dialogue with the theme of moderation. And I think that that's going to be really helpful for a lot of people. We really have to understand the amount of consumption. For some people, things really do have to be detached or cut off in order to show ourselves to what degree we were previously in a purgative state. So purgative states energetically are what lead to hyperconsumption. So when people go through a trauma or a series of years or a series of months, whatever it is, of really difficult experiences, oftentimes that leads to a purgatory of sorts and a purgative phase where people become hyperconsumptive and also hyperpurgative. So their turnover of energy, the in and out waves energy, in order to cleanse the energetic body, becomes really severe. And I think here in July of 2022, indicated by this Sun square Chiron that we're having, as well as the Neptune retrograde coming up, as well as a Chiron retrograde coming up, this is all kind of signaling to a lot of people with these new beginnings, these new Aries energy, Gemini energy coming in as well, signaling to a lot of people that the purgative state is over, and now you've got to adjust your consumption, or you've got to adjust the velocity, I want to say, of things being pulled in and pushed out, because you're going to create a friction energetically that can be damaging. So it's just one of the most grand energetic signals I've ever seen to centrally, as a person in your own authority, edit or redo that which you are relying on, or that which is a purgative element in your life. To finalize this theme, that which has been purgative, or the purgatorial elements of life, are changing in July, and it's going to need to be a conscious, decisive change, not just a passive change. So I think that that's what this decision point that I've been highlighting for the last 6 months in July is really hinging on, is conscious choices to moderate or be less frictional upon yourself. Okay, let's move on. My next intuitive message is going to be about humbling and ego violence. Okay, as we move from Cancer to Leo, there's going to be a very pristine opportunity for a lot of people to get majorly into ego. And I think also, since a lot of 2021, because of some of the empowering experiences that many people have been having, the ego has really been growing, and in a good way for some people. For some people, they didn't have enough ego to get themselves out of a bad situation, or they didn't have enough ego to be in their own sense of ultimate cause. And this is now changed, and now we have enough ego, or we have enough self permeation in order to actually express ourselves more accurately. And now I think that there does have to be a humbling, or there has to be more humility embraced by everyone, because there, I think, is going to be this kind of subtle, unspoken ego violence. So on one hand, like people with major egos maybe being unknowingly kind of like violent with their words, or also like countercultures and counter expressions of ego. So encountering an egotistical person or encountering someone with very unhealthy ego, and that rippling against their favor in unspoken ways. So like gossip is what I'm talking about here, or things that can really be hard on sort of succumbing to ego. So if you succumb to ego and maybe, talk really bad about someone or even like accusatorial to someone without like even knowing, this can ripple in weird ways. So we have to be very decisive with how we're expressing. And we have to, I think, be forgiving or empathetic with the humanity of other people. So the root of an unhealthy ego is the forgetting of humanity, or the forgetting of the imperfect nature of humanity, and also like forgetting that all human decision making is to some degree imperfect. No human can make the perfect decision. Okay. And I think that that's why a lot of us are suspended in indecisiveness, or a lot of us can't make decisions right now, or we know that a decision needs to be made, but we're like, I don't know what to do. And that's just because any decision that a human makes is going to be in some way imperfect, and we have to not let the perfect be the enemy of the good here, and we need to move more towards good rather than suspending ourselves in purgatories, hyper-frictional purgatories of indecisiveness and stagnation. And there's a really great chance to do that here in July. And for every person that's in a different situation, again, I'm going to have to kind of speak in a general way here because, it mundanely channels in all different sectors of life. But this is really the conscious point to do it here in July, rather than putting it off and having a more unfavorable expression of this. And again, it's not something to be fearful about. It's not something to be worried about, but it is something to maybe think twice about, if we're still in stagnation here in July 2022. The year of 2022, this emblem of this year is all about conquering stagnation. It's all about kind of even taking risks, chances, or being willing to polish, refine, or even outright change things that aren't working. Instead of like trying to make things work that don't work, or trying to, force things to be boxy, trying to force things to be, a certain way. This year is all about reshaping and refocusing things in more appropriate ways. But it's scary to do that. Okay, that's a scary thing, and that's why the 2022 year cycle is so hard for a lot of people. Because when you have to make that career change, when you have to like do that rebranding, when you have to change your life, that's a bridge. That's a tightrope. That is a hard thing to go through because there's always an unpredictable element to that. So that's kind of like what people are going through right now. And wouldn't it be nice to have empathy for those people? Or if you see someone like currently in this purgative or decisive state, to empathize with them rather than judge, or rather than condemn, or rather than, be arrogant in the face of this. Because I see that as a dynamic too, like people quickly judging people in the media, or people even in their own lives, or anything, who aren't like perfectly expressing, or aren't totally, maybe in their view, refined. So that judgment is also really harsh, and better to work on it in ourselves than judge other people for it. Okay, everyone, let's talk just a little bit about the astrology itself of July. So as for retrogrades, we are starting the month with Saturn, Pluto, and Neptune retrograde. All of these planets retrograde once a year, so they're not that rare. But yes, they are all in effect as we start the month, which means that, contracts, commitments with these three being retrograde at the same time can have unexpected outcomes. I find that especially with Neptune and Saturn are retrograde at the same time, as they usually always are. But, when they are retrograde, you want to watch out for contracts, commitments. There can be blurriness there. There can be unexpected outcomes to any type of commitment or contract. Things can be like way less profitable than you thought. Also, other things can like really go off the charts in ways that you couldn't have imagined. And I think that we have to really watch out for getting invested in things that have really nebulous results right now. So July 2022, the idea that I can strike gold here, there, or everywhere, and I don't know how, and I don't know really the way the infrastructure works, but I think it can happen. These types of sort of immature thinking will have perhaps consequences, and maybe not like severe ones, but just like the consequence of maybe getting overinvested in something is very possible in July or even June of 2022. Like getting overinvested in the idea of what something could, subjunctively bring you, is problematic right now. And also, it kind of depends on the way that Saturn retrograde is hitting your chart. Like if you do have the current Saturn retrograde transiting anything in your chart, because of the rest of the sky, the rest of the astrology right now, you want to really watch out for over-investing in anything that's nebulous, cosmetic work. I don't know exactly what this cosmetic surgery will do for me, but I know what I want to look like, and I don't know what it will turn out like, but I'm going to invest in it and kind of hope that it turns out right. That mindset is a big danger during this time. Also stocks or cryptocurrencies. I'm going to invest in this thing that I know nothing about that could nebulously be worth bazillion dollars one day, and I'm just going to kind of hope like all of I find this to be a very typical root thinking modality for a lot of people right now. These nebulous investments or these nebulous pushes are already yielding unfortunate results for many people. We have, yes, Pluto is still retrograde, of course, as I just said, and it's at the Pluto return point for the US. So if you're in the US, try to keep it light, simple, and easy. This is not an auspicious transit, and there could be a lot of upheavals for like the rest of this year, in fact, and it's better to be as detached or kind of less invested in anything that really has power over you. So try to not, sign deals with the devil here, Try to not fork over everything or all of your energy into something that has, again, a nebulous result. To me, again, this is, to be repetitive, it is the threat right now. We have Chiron moving retrograde on July 19th, so we are going to start a few month cycle of looking back at trauma or understanding the way that we were not healed, or the way that we wounded another, or the way that we were wounded by another person. There's going to be a sort of like a different view over that which used to be healing, because Chiron rules over both themes of healing and wounding. It's the wounded healer. So also with Chiron retrograde, you can see what needs healing in your life. You can see what's out. It's a good transit to have diagnoses, or it's a good transit also to, not always is it great for that, but if something has been out for a long time and you haven't been able to give it the proper attention, it is in that case. Also, Jupiter is moving retrograde July 29th. And we're moving into one of these phases that we've been having for the last few years where we have like so many retrogrades at the same time. So if you're particularly Jupiterian, you want to kind of have things tied away neatly by July 29th. I'll go ahead and give that deadline of July 29th to have all of your functional, structural, and even like monetary stuff put into a good context, like having a good budget, knowing what to expect for the rest of the year. Jupiter's going to be retrograde for quite a long time. I will put below in the description box the dates of these retrogrades and how long they exactly last for you to reference. But during the entirety of the Jupiter retrograde, you don't really want to have unexpected expenses, unexpected traveling, unexpected crossings of any kinds of borders. It's bad to do international travel unexpectedly during Jupiter retrograde, as you might just have like a lot of like unexpected errors or even like just issues with crossing into different territories. Again, the time for traveling really was the first half of 2022 and leading up through June and July. So if you want to take like a quick trip or something before July 29th, that's recommendable, because 2022 is an indicated good year for travel and movement, but it is especially the first half leading up to this July 29th point where that was positive. And it's not to say it's only going to be negative after this point, but I just don't see it as offering what it could have in the earlier part of the year. So first 3 weeks of July are really good for traveling. But by the fourth week, we want to know kind of exactly the way things are going for the rest of the year. So any correspondence you've needed to do with important people, figures, or authorities in your life is important in the first 3 weeks of July. Any important trips, any important missions or authorizations are really best in the first part of July, because by the end of July, so much is retrograde and so much is already chosen. Okay. And that's something else I would say about this month. And coming out of June 2022, it's like the choices have been made to a lot of extent, and it's important not to go back on things either. It's important not to undo or, because we need, and this is something that the triple Capricorn conjunction of 2020 really taught me, is sometimes it's important to face the results of our choices and to not squirm or frantically go back on things. Like, that is important to heal our impulsivity sometimes, is to just kind of accept the results of certain choices. Okay, also, we will be having, beautifully, I'll tell you about something really positive this month, is the transits of Mercury and Venus in Gemini, both in the sign of Gemini, both great signs for Mercury and Venus. So I think that the beauty of July really is in the lighter, down-to-earth stuff. Like, let's try our hardest to get out of these big, epic, nebulous, crazy stories. I mean, I think we're all in them, but maybe let's condense this down, get a little bit more micro, and work with the energy of friendship, perhaps work with the energy of camaraderie, kinship. It's a wonderful time for cookouts, for swimming, for any type of private gathering. Seems really beautiful during this time, especially in the first 3 weeks of the month, during the Cancer season portion. Family things. And dating for some people is okay during the first part of the month. And basically anything that kind of takes you out of your head and gets you into where you currently are is positive. I mean, it's good communication. It's good for dating. Mercury and Venus in Gemini is a really good dating energy. So that might be good for some of you who are single to consider now. Also, let's see, Mars enters Taurus on the 4th of July. Okay. So, there's a lot to talk about there, but we have Aries and Taurus stelliums happening in July. The moon activates the Chiron Jupiter in Aries, and then Mars and the moon then activate the North Node in Uranus in Taurus. So it's going to be probably more inflationary. It's going to be very easy to burn money during this time. Really keep an eye on credit card spending, on anything that is overconsumption. That's going to be at a climax during this time. So watch out for accidentally spending all of your money, or also spending all of your energy, spending all of your time on things. We can really easily be all of a sudden in September and all of a sudden be like a barreling train through one of the most important stories in our life without maybe the proper funds, or without the proper attire, without the proper gear. So try to really get into the present moment during this time, and be very aware of any unnecessary burning away of resources, as that is most likely with Mars moving from Aries to Taurus in this context of the North Node and Uranus being in Taurus, as they are moving closer together as well, and will move to an exact conjunction, I believe, in the month of August. So that will actually be the true climax of these inflationary or burning away or even disappearance of certain resources, or what we consider to be assets might just kind of fade as well for some people. Yes, we have also perhaps the most important transit that I've talked about is the Sun square Chiron happening on the 8th of July. It's an inauspicious transit, and it is for some people a consequence of some type of crutch or codependency. And it is, for a lot of people, some type of unfortunate crux. But I mean, this is the stuff we live for as humans, right? Overcoming these traumas, overcoming these difficult points. For some people, there can be problems in the family. For others, there can be, realizations of codependency that they were blind to before. And for everybody, Sun square Chiron from Cancer and Aries, it is an important view into anything that's not functioning right, or into anything that is toxic, or anything that is a wounding element of the life. So really keep your eye out for that type of stuff, because we have a gavel to bang, or we have a decision to make regarding that stuff, because it's high time. We've probably been there since 2020. A lot of people psychologically have been through the ringer, okay? And now we got to start healing that stuff up, and we got to start getting back into our own lives, and be willing to have that. And then sometimes also be willing to, have distances, or even, thinking about sabbaticals in the future, or any type of distance creation could be an important thing for many people now. Also, anything relating to like the family clan, anything relating to soul tribe, anything relating also to inherited family, okay? There's a major decision point there, or there's a major apology for some people, or also just like thinking that love was more a part of the story than it actually was. Okay. So we don't need to have, the moon archetype, right? Like the blindness to meanness and thinking that it's love, or thinking that there's more of a camaraderie or kindness than there is possible right now. And that's like, and let me talk about this for a second too. This is important. Okay. That shows good on you. If you think there's love in a situation where there isn't, if you think that there is kind regard somewhere that there isn't, that means that you have love in your heart. And sometimes, sometimes we emulate the people that have given most to us in our lives. And we can see during this time that is was not something that they had love in their heart about. And we have to accept that, I think, as a certain detachment cycle, or a certain reality, and move our loving hearts into places where that can be reciprocated. So I think that July of 2022 is a greater karmic motion towards reciprocation or reciprocity, and a greater moving away from these deluded or disillusioned contact points that we basically, let our hearts color however we want, which can become a toxic trait. It shows good on the person who is expressing love, right? Because love is always a good state to be in, though it can also become toxic when they're allowing it to become disillusionment, or they're allowing it to prop up or foster bonds that are now out of time. So this is really the nature of this month, and this Sun Chiron square, which I think is the mainstay of July. But what a wonderful invitation from the universe July of 2022 is, to really start to get yourself right, and to really, because sometimes these bonds, or these attachments, or these habits or addictions that people have, really eclipse the needed progress, or really eclipse the actual way forward. So I think that the way forward is becoming apparent, and is now becoming visible, because of that which we moderate, or that which we detach from now. So it's not easy, especially if you're having like a Saturn transit, or if you're having something hard going on elsewhere in the chart at the same time. I feel for you, but it's not also, to me, feeling like a negative outcome or a negative path to be going through. And ultimately, July of 2022 is going to be looked back upon as a time of moving into a very important, momentous path. And it's going to be something that we, I think, take pride in for a really long time. As we see that some type of negative entity or construct that once had power over us, as perhaps masked by some type of loving or kind connection, no longer has this actual negative or disillusioned kind of stake over us. And because of that, we have a lot more energy, or a lot more capability in moving forward now, if we allow ourselves to have that, and if we want things to be good. Okay, so for instance, people who want the sad story are very clear right now. People who want the toxic or codependent experience are very clear, and they may not know that. That may be more subconscious, but it is very clear. And then yes, people who want the lighter, more healing, more kind path are also very clear now. So anyway, everyone, I hope you enjoy it. Be sure to check out the Sun in Astrology video, which I will link below, and also be sure to sign up to my mailing list. And yes, subscribe to this YouTube channel and turn on the bell notifications. Your likes, comments, and subscribes do make this channel really do better, and it really makes a huge difference. But yes, the mailing list is becoming more and more important now. So I hope you all have a wonderful July, and thank you for coming to the live premieres. Much love. Bye.